to Epic Sage is where your journey begins. Our shelves are stacked high where the magic never ends. From dice that roll true to tones ancient and wise, we got all the essentials for your game to arise. With adventure in mind, we craft every piece to make your campaigns flourish, your stories increase. For every TTRPG dream, our stock is refined. Come find your next quest, leave the Monday behind. Epic Sages is where you find satisfaction. We bring the spark, you bring the passion. We control the board, you control the action. Epic Sages, where legends find traction. Epic Sages, where legends find traction.
Yeah, Epic's too like I said, our online stores are wonderland. Easy to explore with service that shines, whether in person or more. Need advice on your journey, we're here to assist. For novice and veteran, no wish will be missed. We've got what you need, from the basic to the grand, to bring your world to life with a masterful hand. From maps that expand and characters that bind, Epic Sages always with adventure in mind.
Epic Sages is where you find satisfaction. We bring the spark, you bring the passion. We control the board, you control the action. Epic Sages, where legends find traction. Elevate your game with custom pieces so fine, handcrafted with care, designed to make you shine. From miniature heroes to landscapes vast, we build every detail to make the magic last.
When the final dice is rolled and the journey is done, we offer keepsakes that remind of the battles you won. And every treasure we offer, memories assigned. Epic Sages always with adventure in mind.
Epic Sages is where you find satisfaction. We bring the spark, you bring the passion. We control the board, you control the action. Epic Sages, where legends find traction. Epic Sages, where legends find traction. Yo, 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 yo.
Hello. Welcome to tonight's episode 5-19, Robo-cat! Instead of Robo-cat, we're changing the name from last week's episode just a little bit because we're redoing it. But when down the silly, right? That's our topic, that's our thing. We are joined by two fantastic star guests. Myself and Jared will be hosting tonight. We're going to start with ladies first over here with Nicole. Nicole, you've been on here before, so reintroduce yourself, please, and thank you.
Hello, I am so glad to be back. Thank you so much for having me again. Hi, I'm Nicole Pauling. I am a history teacher and I specialize in the weird, strange stories from history that are usually forgotten in most textbooks. So everything from younger stories to older stories, and some of them are gruesome and some of them are funny and quirky and silly, and we just have a great time.
And where can people find you?
Oh, I am easiest to find on OutSchool. But you can find me by looking for my name or looking up Academy of Wonder.
Facebook is easy peasy to find her. You guys changed your symbol since last time we did the spotlight for you, though. It used to be a carousel, now it's got an actual hand symbol. So if you've seen it before, it's changed.
Yes.
Next
It
up,
has changed a little bit.
going over to my my right, Darren.
Hey, what's up? I'm Darion Dominion Morris. I am a podcaster of the Creative Dominion podcast specializing in domestic violence and mental health. I'm also a published author, just wrote my first grimdark fantasy psychological thriller that released on Amazon in September called Dark Law, Ashes of the Fallen Vow. Outside of that, during the day, I am a private chef as well as um, doing some management for schools and colleges, all the sports apparel, hoodies, etc. And you can find me at the Creative Dominion Podcast on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. You can also find my personal page, Darion Dominion Morris, on Facebook as well. And the book is on Amazon as titled Dark Law, Ashes of the Fallen Vow.
We're gonna say, if you guys haven't seen it on our Facebook post, the cover, at least, if you're judging books by covers, though you're not supposed to, it looks fantastic. So I'm excited for it. So we're gonna go get into it right off the bat. Just as a note, we probably will end this show under the hour mark for once because we have a presentation immediately afterwards with our archivist friends. So we will be rushing through this, firing away as quick as possible. Luckily, today is kind of a goofy episode, as you guys can tell from the title. But when I say the title, right, first thing, Robo-cat, when to add the silly, what's the first thing that like pops into your head? Darion, we're gonna start with you.
There's this old show cartoon called My Life as a Teenage Robot. So it reminds me of like I don't know if anybody can resonate with that, but yeah, that's the first thing it reminds me of.
Oh
Classic.
yes, oh yes.
That was a
I
good show.
remember that show fondly.
That was one of those ones that like was good for as long as it was on, and then it just disappeared in the background, and you didn't see it again until you're an adult. And you're like, huh, that was real. I remember that. That was a thing,
Good times,
right?
vintage.
Vintage. I like
I
that.
work with teenagers, and I live my life in memes now. So all I can see is like the RoboCop, but they've replaced the face with a cat, and it's just going meow, meow. That's the first thing that I thought of, and I was like, teenagers would love that.
That would sell
Hilarious.
millions of T-shirts, guaranteed. Jared, what about you? We
You
heard
know,
we heard this answer from you last week, but have you thought more
Oh,
on it?
it's the same. It's the same. You mentioned silliness and anything robotic, and I just immediately think of Gurr from Invader Zim. I'm gonna sing
That's
the Doom
hilarious.
song now. Doom, 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 doom. But silliness, I'm never silly. Darth Small, am I ever silly? Who asked you?
Fantastic. And then for me, I because this is my title, it literally comes from a little robot toy that my daughter plays with on the regular. It's a little robotic cat that sings music and does songs and does. It's got a little controller that you push the buttons or whatever and it drives around. Robo-cat, right? Uh, and so like literally robotic cat, something goofy, you know what I mean? But fills a niche, right? It's something that's kind of needed for her. She loves cats, but we can't have cats because my wife is super allergic. So this is her way of having a kitty safely around her mother, which is kind of cool in my opinion. So jumping into the second half of the title, the when to add the silly, right? Um, in some of our lines of works, it's much harder to add in there. But starting with Nicole, this is kind of your specialty is adding the quote unquote silly. So how do you know when is too much silly or when is just enough with what you do?
so in my younger classes, there's no such thing as too much silly. If I can get them laughing, man, they will come back week after week and they love it. I can't tell you the number of kids who've just learned to love history because you can find joy in the craziest stories. And so the younger classes, it's super easy to add the silly. The older classes, it becomes a little bit harder because, of course, my older classes take something called dark history, and it's not meant to be silly. It's dictators and serial killers and cults and things like that. And while there are silly moments, it's certainly not a silly class by any means. I think the silliest things we do in there is when we're just talking to each other, and of course the kids all talk in memes. And I am always trying to learn the new lingo. I don't know if you guys have been trying to keep up with the lingo at all. Like, are you
Uh,
trying to keep up with the
the
current
6 7,
generations?
Always.
the new
Six.
six
Oh, you,
seven.
you're no, you're saying it wrong. 6 7. Man, your hat really eats. It took me like 2 weeks to figure out what the heck that meant. I'm like, I had to ask multiple classes. I'm like, can you explain how a piece of clothing can eat? Like, no, just explain it to me like I'm 5. Okay, let's pretend that I'm the child here. So I have learned what the Riz is, and yeah. So I'm trying to keep up on the lingo so I can be fresh, which is out of style, by the way. They don't say that anymore. So
Can
don't
they
say
just
that.
can they just add Zoomer lingo to Rosetta Stone so we can keep up?
It's not that
Please.
bad. It's not that bad. Just follow the memes. It's okay. You'll get there. You
I
get
It
gave
is
up
close
all
about
enough.
the
meme.
time. I gave up about the time people started saying, "Oh, that's on fleek," and I'm like, "And I'm done."
Oh, that's so old.
That was
Yeah, I know.
that was 12 years ago.
That's when I gave.
That's in the
That's when I gave
dictionary
up.
now.
That's
Right.
when I
You
gave
know,
up.
that's the thesaurus.
Right.
Oh, have you heard skibbity toilet?
I
Regrettably.
haven't heard that one.
I actively have a barrier to keep anything related to that out of my brain.
Oh, thank God, because it's horrendous and it means nothing. Nothing.
That's
Like
So, anyways,
it's pure distilled Dadaism.
well, okay. So
yeah.
that
So,
that
so the
Whereas,
younger kids, it's super easy to be silly. The older kids, it's all memes.
we'll come
whereas
back. We'll
dab
come
me
back
up,
to
my
that.
boy.
Dab me up, my boy. Hey, look, that's classic. Um, so that really feeds into something we're going to talk about a little bit later. So we'll kind of come back to it on when it gets to mean nothing, right? Um, Darian, jumping over to you. Um, what about you? And when you're doing your podcast and doing your stuff, where is the silly? Is there silly that you add in there? Because I know you deal with relatively serious topics, right? Um,
Oh yeah, mental health. But that's a great question. So like because like it's a lot of mental health and like abuse survivors and marriage, and some of the things that I've utilized is um you know I do like the pre-recording, or not pre-record, like the pre staging. So like I'll kind of like a consultation call. So basically I kind of know a little bit about the person before going in. So um
which is helpful.
letting them tell, right, and letting them tell their story, but also helping them find like I kind of start the beginning with, you know, just a little like kind of segueing into their story where it's like they'll say something and it'll be like I'll just say a little quick like squirky thing before they get into like the meat and potatoes of the seriousness. Um, but it's really just making them feel like I think I do a great job. At least I like to think so, of making the guests feel comfortable enough to be vulnerable, and then once that wall breaks down, that emotional wall of like, oh, this guy's by like for older people, it's like, oh, this guy's like my nephew or whatever. I can just say whatever, within context. So I think that helps a lot. And then towards the end of when I'm interviewing, like I've done a lot of like psychiatrists and like professional people, I make people tell me like their greatest success stories. And so a lot of those with someone they work with. I had one just real briefly. I'll share. She's been has the same background um, in teaching with Nicole, and she helped someone that's actually had already written a suicide note and was in their senior year of high school, and she ended up was in within a month able to like revert that young woman back, and that young woman's actually a counselor doing the same thing she's doing today. So that's a great, just a little quick brief like success story.
Gotta love when you hear that though. You know what I mean? Like it's always positive to hear someone backed away from the edge and decided to help others, right? But to refocus the question, how often do you find that adding silly helps kind of break that ice with the people that you're talking to?
Honestly, with really every guest, like I try to do like at the beginning, and then um, you kind of really like just studying people. Like you kind of have to know, like as they're telling their story, like sprinkling, like you have to know when to like turn it back from the like you don't want it to be like everybody morbidly crying the whole episode. So finding that sweet spot of what I've noticed is when, especially with survivors, is when they're talking about like their childhood. So like we always like every episode with that always starts with childhood. So finding like even if it was like hey like for me it was domestic violence, personally. So like finding oh, um, I used to come home and watch this TV show after school. So finding that story and just telling a little joke about, oh yeah, Scooby Doo was the best show ever, and then making that guest laugh, and then you know taking that break of looking back, that's ridiculous that I would even laugh at something like and then having that guest laugh, and then you go back to the seriousness. So really just sprinkle it in, so it's not again like robotic and serious all the time. And then in my day to day work, um, just being in management, um, I'll be something like somebody's standing around waiting for something. I'll be like, "You gonna do anything today or what?" And it'll just be like a little quick laugh, like, or it's like they'll come up to my desk and ask me something like, "This is like your tip." I was like, "I'm gonna start charging $5 per question," and just being lighthearted because they come to know it's like, oh, he's just playing with me, or it really breaks the ice. And then when we do have, when they make a mistake or something more serious, it takes away from you know ruining the rapport with the team as well.
Which is important, right? Being able to be human with someone while also still being able to manage them is a hard skill to qualify. Which, as GMs and DMs, we know that all too well. Unfortunately, as Jared could probably tell you, there's plenty of times where crossing the line of humor can go horribly wrong or horribly great. So, speaking of Jared, do you have any times, hints, opinions on when like adding the comedy is necessary or in good taste?
Well, in the context of running a game or something, I find that the humor and the silliness is really needed, especially when you've been dealing with like some heavy story moments, like especially if like a beloved character or NPC has died, or like some the villains won like a major victory and there's just like devastation. Levity, like not immediately afterward, because otherwise you're just kind of making light of the big moment you just had, but after some time to breathe, having like a moment of levity, or even like just a silly session where they go and have to find like a magic pink rabbit that flies around on a cloud of bubbles or something, just something random, just to kind of break the tension. So again, the TTRPG context, it's everything in moderation.
Interesting.
It's
Everything in
like a flow,
moderation.
like a flow, a rhythm. You just need to know when to use the right instrument, as it were.
Nice. So I'm going to add on to that. With our stuff, it's a lot of bits about the context, right? On when you want to do it, because sometimes you will build an intentionally silly character, right? So Boblin the Goblin is a internet meme, right? That 100% is just a goofball character that is there for the fun, the lol, the whatever. Um, but knowing the limits at the table that you're playing at, right? If everyone's playing a silly character, all holds bar, whatever, you guys do your thing and have fun. But if you have two or three serious characters and only one of your handy dandy Boblin the Goblins who is just there to goof around, it behooves both the DM and the player to keep the shenanigans in some kind of check, right? To keep the story pushing forward so it doesn't get derailed every session by Boblin, to not destroy those crazy moments, that just happen. The big bad having a win or the players having a great victory, right? Because even on a positive note, being too silly can totally wipe out the progress they make, right? Because yeah, we just killed a bad guy and then sploot pie to the face. Why? There was no need for that. Go stop. You know what I mean?
It breaks immersion and it kills investment.
Right. Exactly. Right. And then, again, depending on the campaign, sometimes you're there to goof around and have fun. Like the trying to think the My Little Pony RPG that's done by they do Power Rangers too. Why can't I think of the name? Renegade
Renegade
Games.
games.
Thank you, brain fart there. That one. That's one of those campaigns where you can basically be silly all the time if you want to. Right? You're playing little ponies. What's the worst that you can do while being
Are you
silly?
saying
Right?
are you saying that you can't do a grim dark My Little Pony?
You
Because that sounds
could,
like a
but if
challenge.
you do, I'm judging you.
Judge me all you want. It's a
You're
challenge.
getting judged. But jokes aside, moving on to the next bit of this, right? Kind of going into the understanding that there are okay moments and not okay moments for said brevity. How do you guys signify that with your personal stuff that you're doing? What is the line that you usually draw with your clients or the people you're working with, right? If you're having a good time and having fun, where do you stop? Where do you go, hey, that's enough? Or how do you indicate that to the people that you're talking with? Nicole, you look like you're nodding your head, so we're going to start with you.
Um, I think that in my younger classes, really, we're silly almost the entire time. Like there is so much ridiculous amounts of laughter during class, and so I don't really worry about the younger kids. But sometimes some of the older kids will say something that they think is really funny, but there are times when cannibalism jokes just don't really fly well, you know? And that would be like during a class on Ted Bundy. Like so someone who is actually a cannibal. Like that's not the time to make cannibal jokes because we're literally talking about people being eaten. There so you kind of have to guide people and when you're talking about working with kids, you do it softly. Not like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe you would say something like that. Do you not realize people died?" Right? You don't overdo it. You go, I understand you think that's really funny, but in this context, now is not the moment. Like let's save that for a different time.
You know what?
So sometimes, you gently guide.
You gently got. I like that. This is not the proper moment for that. Let's save that for later. Yeah, Jared.
I was gonna say I completely agree with your point, but I do have a horrible joke to make.
I
Do
would like to
it.
hear it.
So you could say the experience left a bad taste in your mouth.
That's hilarious.
It was a real stench in the air too.
Body with a chance of meatballs.
Dang, got it. Going back to a joke before the show started. That line 8.
Here you go.
Darian, jumping over to you. What about you and your stuff? You talked about some of your management stuff on the chef side of things, but where's your professional line? How do people know that, hey, look, this is serious moment versus sometime where I can be kind of goofy? Because that's really
That's
hard.
act-
You know what I mean? Like that's a hard topic to broach for some people. Some people cannot differentiate between the two. So what do you do? How do you broach that?
that's a great question because like I'm the goofiest person ever. But like I think for me, especially at work, it's um I always say lead with the why. So like if it's a hey, somebody made a like we had an error, like somebody um accidentally using a knife to cut a box and they slice open the backpack or the um basically causing 75 to $100 worth of damage because you have to replace it. So it's really starting with the importance of a really establishing an ownership mindset. So like for example, like hey, if this was your grandma's or your wife or whoever's your kids, if this was something they ordered, how would you feel? Start with that, and then they're like um or I'll say something like if you were trying to order a Christmas gift for a loved one and they open the box and it's cut in half, how would you feel? And then they kind of like stop and think like, oh, okay, this is a it kind of switches their mindset to okay, this is the serious manager talking. So that's what I've been, and then we go, and then once we bridge the gap, and and then after we've kind of established it's all right, won't do it again, whatever disciplinary action, then it's like all right, then we can go back to all right now don't do that, and then like once they do a better job, I'll like not throw it in their face, but like make little side jokes. It was like, oh, here comes Edward Scissorhands again, or something funny like that. And then they're like, oh, whatever. And then it we kind of like passes it because they overcame it. So like I roast everybody. That's like but like roast them roast with them, not at them.
Roast with
And
them, not add them. Solid
yeah,
way to phrase that. I really like that. At the table being able to do that, right? It definitely helps you form those positive bonds with your players where you can would joke with them about when things go terrible. Right, great example. Someone that's constantly rolling twos all night long. They can't roll above a five. Something you know what I mean. Just having a rough time. If you can make it funny, they're gonna have a good time, even if they're rolling like trash, right? As long as you're not making fun of them, but instead being like, we gotta start making you roll for the bad guys or something like that, right? To where they're gonna giggle about it. You're gonna change the negative experience of having shit rolls for a night to something that might be positive, right? One of my favorite experiences that I'm gonna bring up with someone was having one of those nights. And instead of the normal reaction of just getting a new dice or doing something, they took a hammer at the table to that dice, and there was no more dice afterwards. It's a very serious reaction. But they laughed maniacally the entire time. They had just recently bought said dice destroying hammer. It was specifically for destroying naughty dice. Um, Great, it's fantastic. I'm glad it was on the other side of a computer because I was not expecting it when it happened because I did not see it on screen until the from from the camera because they switched their camera angle for us to watch. It was artwork. Anyway, jumping over to Jared. Jared, what about you? When you're at your table, what is the line? Do you have a hard stop? No, this is not good. Uh, Bit that is for your players that is something that like is relatively easily enforceable on more than one situation.
Well, first off, I'm going to piggyback off your story there. I know a story of another player who got mad at their dice rolling badly, but it was much less levity involved. This is a grown ass man in his 40s, picks up his D20 and hucks it down his hall as hard as he can, and then just sits back down. I'm like, oh, okay. But anyway, my major line is I'm fine with silliness at my table. Like, I actually try not to run too many games that have to be taken super seriously. Like, the whole point is we're all having fun, we're having some catharsis, and we're letting loose a little bit. But I would say my line is if your insistence on silliness is stepping on another player's moment, everyone deserves a chance at the spotlight. So if your desire to be silly to the point of needing all the attention is becoming a problem, that's where I'm going to put the brakes on it and be like, you'll have a moment, or you've already had your moment. It's this person's turn. So that's where I'm at. Because otherwise, I'm perfectly happy with my players being as silly as they want to be.
Gotcha. Okay, and kind of like on that to continue the question, like how do you phrase that when someone like does something so you're like, hey, look, that didn't happen, or don't do that. How do you phrase the stop action in those moments?
I typically just there's a lot of phrases for it. I basically I call a stop and be like, okay, I get it, you're having fun, but can we bring it back a little bit? Because so and so, this is their character's moment. This is a thing that's going on with them. So I just keep it super casual and just be like, all right, okay, that was funny, but tone it back. And
Interesting.
hopefully
Okay.
I don't end up with passive aggressive players that just do stuff in the background and just send me private messages about all the weird zany crap they're doing while I'm trying to run the game.
That's guaranteed. I don't know what you're talking about. Someone's always talking. Have you seen our channels? They're all memes. I don't ever get to see them until the game's over. It's horrible. Um,
I mean, to
so
be fair, for D&D, I'm the one serious player there.
that sends meme constantly. I don't know what you're talking about. Serious, my butt.
In character, I'm the most serious.
Anyway, jokes aside, moving into the modern era was silly, right? Again, we all kind of had a conversation before the show started about modern culture and language and that kind of fun stuff and how everyone relates to memes. Um, as we are kind of a middle generation, all of us are about the same age. We do get the benefit of dealing with the old folks that have been around forever that have no idea what the term 6-7 means, which can include us as well. And those of us that they get to hear those terms and phrases literally on the daily, right? Something you hear all the time, or just various other slang that is put into places, right? Um, how do you guys deal with the determining uh, the generational silly, right? Because there is definitely a hard difference between where we're at as a age group of people comparatively to the younger people we work with. How do you guys cut through the memeage to get to the serious bits, right? Or at least to an understanding. This time we're going to start with Darion.
So I have like, so I'm like in the middle because I'm 29, but I have an old soul. So like I can pretty much like, and then also have twins that are 7. So twin boys that are 7. So it's like after school or something, like they'll tell me all their lingo or, um, um, there was one that used to say he'd be like, "What the sigma?" I'm just like, "What does that mean?" Like that was like, and then my youngest son would just say that he's younger by 4 men, so I call him the youngest. But he would just always say that, and then it's also like at work. At work was actually it was what 3 years ago was the first time I heard Riz. Some guy was like, "Oh, you trying to riz her up?" I'm like, "I'm trying to what?" And I was like, it just sounds like a Law and Order episode, or that's like I gotta call Olivia Benson or somebody.
Look, if you
And
if you
then
were bad enough at the Riz, it might be a Law and Order episode, but you know.
right. Yeah, he gives a disclaimer alert, right? And then like with the old school is for some reason for like my demographic, like whenever you say good morning to like like a old anybody 40 and up, it's just all right now. Like it's not a so like just um really trying to understand where everybody comes from. To the point of being silly is not to the point of the episodes like not taking everything everybody says too serious. So like especially with the younger generation, it's like um, really understanding like, oh, that's funny, but also kind of bringing it back. To me, it's just really showing grace with people and being cordial with everybody. The understanding like, hey, everybody's got a different background, um, and then really, just being open and honest. I think that open line of communication is the most important key. Even if you somebody whichever way you swing, age wise, if they say something that you offend you, having that open communication to kind of like not take it too serious and you know not blow up on like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you said that. I'm never talking to you again. But actually saying, hey, like, I understand, that's kind of the lingo now, but that doesn't really mesh well with my thought process or my beliefs or whatever. So really, um, just like back in the day, like there's a lot of like you know LGBTQ terms that we could use back in the day, like while we're playing a game that we really can't use now, like the different like the F word and different words. Like back then when I was in middle school playing a Call of Duty, like that was just a word. But like now as a grown man with kids, it's like you can't really say that at all. So um, just really understanding like being able to be kind of like flow with the water and like flow with change. I think not being too stubborn to change that helps me.
Okay, yeah, I 100% relate to that. There's been a lot of times and a lot of changes, and dialect has changed a ridiculous amount. Again, we go into the meme sphere. Things change every 6 months. You know what I mean? There's new phrases, new terms, new something, right? We again before the show kind of made jokes about some of the words like on fleek being put into the thesaurus and whatnot. But that's a real thing. The word yeet officially in the dictionary, right? Like there's no way we're putting the word what the sigma in the dictionary. For one, it's already in there under the Greek word blah blah blah, but they're not updating the title. But that was a thing for quite some time, right? Um, but I hear you. Jumping over to Nicole. Nicole, what about you? As you live more in the meme trenches, what you
You.
got?
Okay, so some of these words I have made part of my vocabulary. Like I speak fluent Riz. I am down with the vibe. Um, I could totally tell a story without capping. So I have some of this stuff that is now built into my vocabulary because I've been around it so much. But when there is a new term, and trust me, there is always a new term, I just step back for a second and I say to the kids, like, look, guys, I'm ancient. All right. I'm almost half a century. You need to step back a second and explain to the little old person who doesn't know what you're saying right now. It sounds like English, but I don't know for sure that it is. Just tell me, like I'm a child, what you are saying. And then they love it because, suddenly they get to teach something and they're so cool. And, here I am trying my best. And sometimes I will mess up a word for weeks, even if I've got it, because they think it's so funny. Like it's just so hysterical. Boy, Mystical still doesn't understand what that means. Let's explain it to her again. Like, it's just a good time. So, and I find that when you try to keep up with the lingo, though, they feel seen. And don't we all want to feel like people around us see us and they're trying to connect with us? Because really, that's what language is, right? Language is how we connect with each other. Language is how we build a mutual story. about who we are and what our place is in the world and the things that we dream about and the things we want to accomplish. So you have to have a shared language. And so, really, when I'm trying to learn these words that sound absolutely ridiculous to those of us who are approaching half of a century, it's really that I want to speak the language my students are speaking because then we can connect. We can't connect if we're speaking two different languages.
Yep, I totally feel that. Though before I get before I'll come back to that because again, there's a the jumping off point. But Jared, so don't disinclude you here. Kind of again, you being our meme lord of our personal games pretty regularly. I don't want to hear it, GIF master. Um, you literally sent a GIF in the chat. You people watching the show can't see it, but it's in there. Um, but jokes aside, what about you? When you are in charge of a game or playing a game, do you have any personal rules for like, hey, this is too much for crowding chats or things like that, or you just kind of let it flow and go from there on either end?
So when I'm running like an online game, the easiest solution to that particular problem of just the flood of memes is to just have a separate meme channel that people can just vent onto during the game, and that and everyone can go reference at their leisure. That's the best way I've seen to handle that on online games. For
So before you go to the
in-person
next,
games,
before you go
okay,
into
go
the
ahead.
next part here, um, with that though, do you fear that the people that are playing aren't listening because they're too worried about making the next funny thing in the meme chat? Do you ever have that concern, or is that something you're just kind of not worried about?
Well, I guess closer to the second one, and as I've stated before on the show, I'm not super strict as a DM on my phone policy for people being on their devices unless they are actively ignoring what's going on. Like if I call their name and they're just like, "Hey," as long as they perk up when addressed and only need a quick summary of what's going on. Because I've had players who have ADHD and other stuff like that. They need the phone to help keep their brain stimulated so that they can jump back into the game. Because otherwise, they fall asleep for one, or because some people just need to have their brain stimulated. I also work with a lot of people who work for a living, as far as like running games for people, and yeah, some of them just need to be focusing on their phone between turns to just to like stay awake because they work like 10-12 hour days. But
Hashtag uh, far away time zones. Hashtag Veerling. Hashtag RJ.
yeah. But yeah, so for in-person stuff is like I don't mind if you have your phone out as long as you don't have any videos playing, like no audio to disrupt the thing, and answer when I address you. Be like, "Hey, your turn." And if they ask, "Okay, remind me what's going on?" This. Okay, and as long as they have something they want to do, like if especially if they're playing a spellcaster or something, um it's like have what you want ready to go, please, on your turn. Then you can just look at memes or whatever all you want between turns, as long as you know what you want to do, and you only need like just a brief summary of what went on in the turn. Because especially in a long combat where there's like 15 or 16 initiative counts to go through, and you're just like, what happened? This. Okay.
My plan for Fireball at round 3 did not work out because I am round 12 and now only our allies around the enemies. I will only hurt my friends by throwing this. Dang it. Okay, so with all that, right? We got some pretty good boundaries on why and how to deal with these things. Now, uh what about when we get quote unquote lost in the sauce, when the skibbity toilet gets too much and it just means nothing, right? Um it's literally gobbledygook. It's just something to waste the time. It has no meaning, right? Um, when that bit of silly hits, um, it really is where we you have to cut it off, right? Especially if you're trying to move forward or do something when it becomes useless, silly, it needs to be cut out, right? Do you guys have any examples of that in your work where you're just like, all right, that's it, right? Just straight up, this is a thing that I've experienced, as a story I have that was just like was pointless and unnecessary, and we moved on eventually. In your quote unquote quest for and against the silly. Nicole, you giggled the entire time, so we're gonna start with you.
Oh my gosh, 6, 7 means literally nothing. Nothing. So the student who introduced me to this, and it was only like 3 weeks ago, mind you, this is a very new one. 6, 7, and he'd say it every single class, and I'm like, what does that mean? And he would never answer. I'm cool with new lingo if I have a context. I need to know what it means. Like, are you telling me I'm old? Are you saying I'm 67? Are you about to tell me that 6 is afraid of 7 because 7, 8, 9? Like, what? Give me some background here, right? And he doesn't say anything, and he doesn't say anything, and this goes on week after week. So I start looking it up outside of class time because I'm like, I'm gonna solve this sucker. Like, is he telling me something really bad? Like, maybe this is code for like, hey, we're gonna murder the planet. I don't know because he won't tell me what it means. It literally means nothing. It has no meaning attached to it at all. So what a time waster. Week after week after week. 6, 7. Well, what does it mean? Because it means nothing. Nothing.
It's literally
I
just
had
like
strong
a
emotional feelings to this.
I can tell. Yeah, it's just literally just a cultural counter meme, right? It's the why did the chicken cross the road? Or why didn't the chicken cross the road? Because it got killed by a brick. Just like, okay, cool, thanks. That was great. Needed that for some reason. Um, Darian, jumping over to you. The same kind of question, right? When you're dealing with your stuff, do you ever come across something that just feels like it is just wholly unnecessary and unneeded, right? Especially in like the podcasting space, we'll say. Is there some bit that you remember encountering that was just like this is pointless? Why did we talk about this? Why did this come up?
Mine is really with the slang term sus. Like that's sus. Like what like it's such a slippery slope. Um because like you could just be like I think we were talking about so like for football fans we're Caleb I'm a Chicago Bears fan, so Caleb Williams for his mom would paint his fingernails and we are just talking about at work. Like we're like some people get like the clear coat or whatever, and they're like, "Oh, that's sus," and it's just like you can't like. It just leads to it could lead to such a like down a slippery slope where it's like we just can't. It's just not even worth the slang at that. Like a lot of the slang terms now, like your yeets or your, you know, I got drip. It's meant to be you kind of like the top of that funny, silly, goofy, like, oh yeah, y'all just having a good time. But like when you get to words like sus, it's just depending on the audience and you know, your where you're at, your surroundings. It's like it could go from again that super silly, like we're just even with you're just playing D&D. It's like, oh, we're just having fun, and somebody says sus, like, well, actually, I am, you know, this and that, and it's like now you're, and as you guys running the game, now you're trying to de-escalate a situation, and it just all started with, funny. So it's like, that one is for me is just, especially with today's current, demographic and climate. Again, like how we talked about back, like going with the flow, and regardless of what your personal views is, you just have to be open and just really just know your audience. So that's for me. That's just one that's just like I'd rather not say at all.
Gotcha. Well, and it's such a individualized term, right? Because it's not like there's no standard for sussery. It is just thank you. I appreciate you giggling at my use of that word. Um, but there
It's a
is no
sus.
standard. It's to each person's standard, right? It's one thing being sus to somebody is not sus. Susses all the time will also cringe. Okay, well, yeah, again, I don't necessarily disagree or agree with that statement. It really just depends on what you're talking about. Jared, jumping over to you. Um, again, when can you give us a story or a situation where it kind of just where that silliness kind of amounted to nothing? It did nothing for the story. It did nothing for your players. It just was pointless, and you hated it. Whether that was something that you come across on the regular, or if it was just like a one-time story.
That's a tough one for me because I'm trying to think of like we've had plenty silliness and absurdity and just I've been playing the game for over 20 years, so it's just there are some moments that just kind of amounted to the just well, that happened, and just nothing that was to the point where it's just like it made me upset or angry, I would say. There's been a couple times I've been a player in a game where we will like the game master for whatever reason or another would go lead us on this great big long like thing, and like all these things would happen, and then at the very end it amounted to nothing. That would upset me as a player, and I'm just like, well, then why have we been here for the last 3 hours doing this if this was all just pointless? And then their usually response is, get a level up. It's like, fine, I'll take it.
For the equipment, for the lulls, for the I didn't prep anything for this session, and this is what I
Oh,
was thinking about as we were going along.
that's sorry, we just touching back on like vernacular and stuff that people are using now. That just kind of amuses me because we're starting to use like old stuff in new ways. Like, do it for the lore. Oh man, imagine your backstory after this. I'm just like, you know what? I can dig that. I like using old stuff in new ways.
Bring it back. You guys ever
All that.
ever looked at old like 50s slang and been like, why are we still not using this? This
Oh,
is pure gold.
or 1920 slang is hilarious.
Yes. Yes, exactly. So to kind of wrap things up, because we do have to end a little bit early to get to our next bit. We're gonna do final thoughts, or extroduce. Say goodbye to our two guests. Let them tell us all their stuff and the things one more time, so we can find them in the future. And then do all of our yada yada fun stuff, extra stuff. Thank you guys so much for being here tonight. Final thoughts, starting with Darion this time. Darion, what were your kind of final thoughts on dealing with the city, our Robo Kitty, our goofball talkie points? Carnival, thank you,
I would
appreciate you.
just say it. I would just say again, just always remember go with the flow. Um, roast people. My big thing is just if I can leave with anything, is just roast people with them, not at them, and then everything will be great. Other than that, just continue to learn. Like to Nicole's point, like continue to learn the new. You know, don't be like Patrick Star and live under a rock, right? Make sure you actually know what you're talking about when you use slang. That's really all I got.
Okay, solid message. I like that. And then one more time, where can people find you? Where can they get your stuff, websites, links, all that fun stuff? What you got for us there?
Yep. So Amazon, the Grimdark Fantasy, Dark Law. It's book one, so it'll be a trilogy.
Nice.
Dark Law, Ash of the Fallen Vow, Grimdark Psychological Fantasy. I actually have a Halloween edition coming out on the 30th. That's hardcover, so I'm excited for that.
Nice.
So you can find that on Amazon. The Creative Million podcast on Spotify, YouTube, Facebook, really all the social medias, Instagram, TikTok, etc. You can find my cooking page, Dominion Delights, on Instagram as well. And you can find me personally at Darion Dominion Morris on Facebook. And again, roast people with them, not at them.
Fantastic. Nicole, one more send off for you, friend.
Hello again. So, I've been thinking about this the whole episode, right? And it's that humor is a language of communication and connection. Humor is how we break through difficult conversations. Humor is sometimes how we smooth over rough edges. Humor is how we deal with politics that feel out of hand or out of control. Humor is a way to navigate life and not let it be overwhelming. So I think humor is an essential skill. I think it's something that we need to cultivate in the youth, in ourselves, in our relationships, because it can bring a sense of levity um, and refocus us and recenter us, right? It means we don't go off to the extremes because we can find that bit of lightness in the moment. So, I just want to I've been thinking this the whole time, like humor is a tool. It is a useful tool. It's a tool that is so needed. And if you think about it, think about the people that you've met who cannot use or understand humor. Are they not the most difficult people to be around? They're, very black and white thinking. It's really hard to communicate. You have to have humor in order to break through, especially if maybe you're not on the same wavelength, right? But humor is a common language that people can share. So I really think this was strangely probably a better conversation than you would think that you were having. Like I think this is way deeper than maybe you had anticipated. I think humor is a universal. So I think it's a great topic.
Well, thank you. I
Now,
do my best. Well, haha. Blame the community. They voted
yeah,
on it.
I like it. I think it's fantastic. Um, so my personal information, you can definitely find me on Facebook. You can definitely find me on OutSchool. Just look for Academy of Wonder or Nicole Pauling. And if you have a student who hates history or loves history, I am excellent with either of those groups.
The man on history, let them stay in school. But if they love it or hate it, come to you. All right, extremes are good. Extremes are good. Okay, for us, we're gonna speed run through our stuff. Jared, do you have anything super important to announce for the next couple days?
Nope. Couch Quest Gaming has been kind of dead this week because I've just been so busy, so I haven't had any streams. I'm going to try to maybe Sunday morning get a quick stream off just so I have some content to release on YouTube next week. But yeah, it's been super dead on my channels lately. Yeah, so don't got anything going on right at the moment.
Okay, for us tomorrow, first thing in the morning, 10 to 4, all day long at the local Monroe Catholic High School. We're at one of the cool bazaars we're doing. We'll be there causing havoc, having fun, playing games, burning things with lasers, whatever we can do while we're there. And then Monday and Wednesday next week are our games. So Monday is Cosmere episode 2, and Wednesday is Younger's D&D stuff.
Hopefully he's feeling better by then.
Hopefully, yeah. Otherwise, we're gonna get another SpongeBob episode. Um, Context, don't worry about it. But other than that, this will probably be our last podcast for the month, as we will not be doing a Halloween special this year, to my knowledge. We have decided to just take a break on that because we don't have any book guests, so it's just going to be a night to hang out with the kids or cause havoc. We might do a community event. We haven't really discussed that, but it really we'll if you're on Discord, you'll see us on Discord. If you guys stick through this whole episode, thank you guys so much. Stick around. If you're on Twitch, we'll be back on in about 5-10 minutes. Starting that
What's
demo.
this month's code?
I'm getting there. The code for this month is Spooky 907 because it's Halloween and that's the code every year for Halloween. Wahaha. All caps 907 Spooky 907. Get you 10% off of the website on most of the stuff and the things. Yeah. Guests, we're gonna do music. Stick around afterwards for our after action review. People in the audience, feel free to head to the Hall of Heroes. Again, we should be starting a little after 8. Thank you guys so much. And with the adventure in mind, have a wonderful time. Bye. Oh, actually, before we go, I need a number from our 2 guests here, between 1 and 6.
Ladies first.
Sure.
Number 4.
Sure.
4, okay.
I'll take 6.
Number 6. All right. Oh, we haven't heard this one in a while.
Yeah, I built this throne, took my cuts, now the name's well known. Gold on my wrist, steel in my spine. Speak my name, better say it right. Every scar, yeah, I earned that pain. Every war, just fuel in the veins. They whisper, they plot, they pray I fall, but I make the rules, they obey the call. Heavy is the crown, but it fits just fine. I don't bend, I don't beg, I don't break, I don't hide. Put the weight on my back, watch me carry it down. I don't drown, I don't bow, this is my I don't need fate, I take what's mine. I don't sit and wait. Iron grip, never slip, never lose my place. Turn my back, nah, I face my fate. Blood runs deep in the streets I own. Names get lost, but my legend's stone. They whisper, they plot, they pray I fall. But I write the books, they just read the law. Heavy as a crown, but it fits just fine. I don't bend, I don't beg, I don't break, I don't hide. Put the weight on my back, watch me carry it down. I don't drown, I don't bow. This is my empire now. Power ain't given, it's taken in blood. Made my way, now they choke on the dust. Would I trade it? Nah, not a chance. They want my throne, better learn to dance.